So, guys, welcome back to another one. And yeah, you already read the title, you already seen the thumbnail, so let's get straight into it. And guys, before we actually get into it, this is going to be another sort of video. There's not going to be any PvP here, not a single PvP match, but I'm just going to talk about the collab characters who you should choose at the pity, of course, as a free-to-play. And yeah, with that being said, also a kind of a disclaimer, everything that I say in this video is just my opinion as a free-to-play player. If you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments why. You just don't have to do this if you don't want to, of course. Just play the game how you want to, but like I said, this is from my perspective as a free-to-play player. So with that being said, of course, guys, if you like this sort of content, of course, consider liking, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel, and it honestly makes my day. And with that being said, let's just get straight into the video. So first of all, I got really lucky on this banner on my global account, and I got all 3 of them. So now I was really lucky, but I know for a fact, because I read my comments, some of you guys were really unlucky and got 1 out of the 600, and some of you guys don't even summon before you actually see what the characters do. So now I also have my GP account, and on my GP account I was not that lucky. I only got Sid, and I could choose one other, like I could choose one of the 2, right? So now let's get into the characters and what they do. So now I have tested all of the characters. I know it doesn't look that way, but I've tested it on my friend's account, on other accounts that actually do have all the characters, because they are whales and I am not. So I tested everything out with every sort of team you could imagine, and these are my thoughts. So first of all, we have Sid. I think Sid is the #1 character out of this whole collab. So now hear me out. He is, first of all, a human type character. That means he is viable for more teams, because Alpha and Beta, let me actually go to Alpha and Beta. So Beta right here, she is a fairy type character. Now she does have applicable allies, but those applicable allies are fairies and shadow characters. What shadow characters means is just literally from the shadow collab, right? So in the long run, Beta and Alpha right here, they are literally only for fairy teams. You cannot use them in human teams, except if you use Sid, of course. So I think Sid is a little bit more viable if you want to do it in a long run, right? Because the next anniversary is right around the corner. I have not have enough gems, but it is right enough the corner, and it could be another human type character. And if it is a human type character, you can use Sid in that team. You cannot use Alpha or Beta in that team. The same goes with like Mazino, right? You cannot use Mazino with Alpha or Beta, because again, they are only fairy characters and only shadow characters, right? Shadow collab characters. So Sid is a lot more viable. Also, with Sid, of course, his Holy Relic increases the hero's crit resistance by 10% and crit defense by 20% for each applicable ally participating in the battle. So he is still like really good. You can use him in a human team and also a fairy team. Then of course his passive is just like really long, but what it does, like really simplified, is you buff yourself up for the amount of allies you have on the battlefield, and every time you attack an enemy, you debuff them. He's kind of, let me actually get him right here. Where is he? Yeah, he's kind of like this bond, right? So the more you attack, the more debuff you apply to the enemies, the less damage they do. He's kind of like this bond, but actually better. In my opinion, he's actually better. So I think Sid right here is the #1 character you actually want to pick from that collab, from the 600 pity, right? He is the best character in this whole banner just because he's more viable. Now for the second best character, it is kind of tied here. So you guys don't want to hear this, I think. But if we go to the collab characters right here, Beta right here is essentially a backline unit. So what that means is you essentially don't want to use her in in the front lines. You actually want to use her in the back because she does do a lot. For each applicable ally participating in the battle, their basic stats increase by 6. Their basic stats, not yours, theirs. So you buff them up. So you essentially, like I said, want them in the back. For each buff applied to applicable allies, their attack-related stats increase by 4%. Really good buffer. Really good stats buffer and, of course, attack buffer. Then, when applicable allies take damage, they also recover 15%. So you also have a recovery. Huge. When the hero enters the battle, so when someone dies in your team, she comes into the front. When the hero enters battle, Shadow is applied to applicable allies for 2 turns. What Shadow does is pierce rate plus 80%, damage taken minus 40. She is just a really, really good buffer. Whenever the hero uses a buff skill, applicable allies' defense-related stats increase also by another 15%. So she is just a really, really strong backline buffer. And when she comes into the front, she can nuke, and she just keeps your team a little bit more alive. Then if we showcase, well, if we go to alpha and we read her passive is actually like really long, but like bear with me here. Increase the hero's basic stats by 8% for each applicable ally. So like beta right here, she buffs other characters. Alpha right here takes other characters and buffs herself, so she doesn't really do anything for the team right now. Applies Mist Form on applicable allies for 2 turns at the start of the battle. So she does do this. Mist Form only take damage from basic stats when attacked. The effect is removed after 2 attacks. When the effect is removed, the crit defense of the hero is removed from increase by 40% for 2 turns. So she actually buffs, but then also after 2 turns, she doesn't buff anymore. So she is a kind of a pseudo buffer, I guess. When the applicable allies use 3 or more skills during the ally's turn, the suppressed damage taken effect is applied to applicable allies for 1 turn, limit 1. Suppressed damage taken from enemies' skill does not exceed 50% of max HP. That is pretty decent. When the applicable ally other than the hero uses a single target attack, Sword of Penetration is applied to the hero for 3 turns. Sword of Penetration, pierce rate plus 60%, damage dealt plus 40% can stack up to 3 times. When the hero uses Flesh Cuts, 1 Sword Penetration effect is removed. So yeah, then you remove this. So why I read this is just to put in perspective, right? Beta is just a really good buffer. Really good backline buffer. She keeps your allies alive long enough to do as much damage as you can. When one of your allies dies, she comes into the battlefield. She is a huge nuker, and she, like I said, pierce rate plus 80%, so she's a huge nuker. Damage taken minus 40%. That is huge. So even if you are up against the ropes, if you have like literally less than 30% HP, she can still make a comeback because of this passive. Now, if we compare it to Alpha right here, you have to use her in the front because she does not work in the back. She is, for the first 2 turns, pretty decent, pretty good. But after those first 2 turns, I don't think she has what it takes to actually make a comeback. She is a good unit, don't get me wrong. But if I have to give the second place to someone, it would be Beta, because she is just a really good buffer. So now this is the part you don't want to hear. You're not going to play with Beta. Because, hear me out, she is a backline unit. So you essentially, like I said, you want her in the back. So you're not going to see her a lot of times in your team. What you are going to see is your units not dying because she is that good. So also the second worst thing about this collab is kind of like they are fairy characters and you can only use them in fairy teams. So if like their teams are really limited. If I go to races, if I go to fairies, Lancelot, don't have him unfortunately, but really good. And then LR King. Well, you can make him LR, right? So if you don't have Sid, you only have Lancelot and King to work with. That's also the reason why I said Sid is number 1, right? But yeah, if I have to give second place to someone, it would be Beta. Because Beta is just so good that she can keep your team alive long enough to nuke. When your team dies, you essentially come not invincible, but like really tanky, and you can still nuke. So I give second place to Beta. just because of her passive and everything. And also, yeah, she can buff up. She literally removes debuffs, and she increased defense related stats by 50%. Like she's just insane. Then of course you have this like ultimate depletion. It's fine, you know. Ultimate depletion, who cares? If we go to alpha, disables single target attacks for 1 turn. Decent, not really that huge. Inflicts flash cut, damage equal to 200%, flash cut 3 times pierce rate, attack plus 70 for each sword penetration effect on the hero. It is what it is. In my opinion, Sid number 1, Beta number 2, and Alpha number 3. Alpha Alpha number 3, by the way. But yeah, that is just my opinion. Also, the longevity is just, you can use Beta longer than Alpha, I think, because the fairies kind of lack in backline units. And like I said, if you have to choose one character, you don't have Sid, you want to use Beta because you're a Beta fanboy or fangirl, whatever, right? The fairy teams don't really have a good backline unit. Like they have, where is she? I think this was her. Yeah, increased fairy HP related stats by 15%. That's not really huge. That's not really huge. If you want to go for full-on fairy team because you're a fairy, fairy. Pause. You're a fairy enjoyer in this game. Like if you have LR Glocks, LR King, who else? Lancelot in the team, and you want a good fairy team, go for Beta. Beta is just so good for fairies, it is insane. Like her buffs and her abilities for fairies is just top tier. Like she is, if you don't count Gloxinia, I think she's the second best fairy in the game. Alpha is also a really good fairy, better than anyone else, except for like Glocks and LR King. But she gets outshined by Beta because Beta just does so much for the team. And Alpha really doesn't do that. Well, she does, but in comparison to Beta, she doesn't, right? So yeah, my opinion, I know I've been yapping on long enough, but really short at the end of the video. Sid number 1, Beta number 2, and Alpha number 1. So now, like I said, they are level 1, but like I said again, I have used them, I experimented with them on other accounts, on other teams that I couldn't make here, and honestly, like that just is my opinion. So yeah, if you didn't do the summons yet and you want to, and you just waited on someone to yap about it, and if you are not lucky enough and get to the pity, if you have Sid, just choose Beta. If you don't have Sid, choose Sid. Alpha is kind of alright. She isn't the best out there, but like I really enjoy Sid because of how versatile he is. And if you just want to run Sid, if you already have Sid, if you want to run Sid, or you want to run a fairy team, Beta is just your girl, man. Beta is just so slapped on. Like she is actually the backbone of the fairies at the moment. And Alpha's just there. So yeah, with that being said, I know a really long yapping video, but those are like all my thoughts. Like I said, the longevity of the characters, because I don't think Alpha is here to stay for a really long time. I think Beta is just, like I said, she's just so versatile with her backline units. Like she's a really good backline unit for like fairies and everything. That her longevity is a lot longer than Alpha. And like I said, Sid is just a human and a fairy, both in one. So yeah, he's just like versatile a little bit more, right? You can just use him in a lot more teams. So yeah, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope my little rant didn't bore you guys too much. And with that being said, tomorrow will be the showcase of course, the whole team, because if you have all 3 of them, and believe me, if you're a new player, this is the time to summon. If you can put all 3 in one team, you are literally gonna win almost every single match. Except for Queen Hell, but Queen Hell is really balanced and she's not a problem to PvP. Like, she is so balanced in this game. She's the most balanced character that I've seen in a really long time. If you have watched my global summons, you know why I'm saying this. But yeah, with that being said, of course, guys, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of the day, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. So, bye-bye.